Ever since I discovered the original 3v3 counter, I had a strong feeling that it could translate to 5v5. The damage was there, it was just a matter of survival, and we had 2 whole extra slots we could cram tanks into. With a lot of testing and a few improvements, I'm happy to say that it turned out even better than expected. Without further ado, welcome to the new way to take down Darth Revan with the tactical brilliance of Thrawn. Every part of this video matters for the success of this counter, so I'd suggest you avoid skipping around. This is one of the harder counters I've seen in this game, and the last thing I want is for you to get excited just to get burnt. That being said, I tested this setup over 25 times against various Relic 7 Revan setups, and it was rock solid. There's a lot to cover, so we're going to power through the old topics quickly. The realities of the 3v3 video are still true here, with a few key differences. Starting off with speed, Darth Revan slower than our Vader after his unique is a no-go here. With this team we're using, we'll have 32 extra speed, so keep that in mind. Slow Bastila is fine in 5v5, actually being somewhat easier compared to its 3v3 counterpart, and Malak faster than Darth Revan is also fine here. We also need to make sure that our Vader is built for battle. Both of his non-lead Zetas are important here. Against an equal or higher relic Darth Revan with extra health primaries, you really don't have room to cut corners too heavily on your mods. Shortcuts like a crit chance triangle mean that you need to bring a lot of extra offense in your secondaries to make up for the missing crit damage. The offense number you need changes depending on how much extra health the Revan has, so it's a bit difficult to give a proper offense target to shoot for. Just bring as much as you can fit in. Aim for 2 crit chance sets with a potency set and a crit damage triangle. A crit damage set with a crit chance triangle trades away extra damage for 4 extra crit chance, so only run it if you have no other option. Aim for somewhere between 250 and 270 speed, with a 75% crit chance minimum, but 89 being a nicer target to aim for. With 2 crit chance sets, this shouldn't be too difficult. For potency, 90 to 100 is pretty standard. This counter doesn't really care about potency, but we're aiming to keep Vader functional for fighting other teams, so ideally we'd want a potency cross. If you don't have great offense secondaries and you're worried about your damage output, you could get away with subbing out a potency cross for an offense cross. It's not a requirement, and it'll make Vader less consistent at landing debuffs against other teams, so there could be some consequences. Just keep in mind that this extra offense only really matters against top quality Revans. For Thrawn, I've actually got both of his Zetas now. The lead Zeta is by no means important for this counter to succeed. I did all of my testing without it, but it helps get 3 of your characters pretty consistently back to full protection by the end of battle, for some really nice extra banner recovery in Grand Arena. Protection is all that really matters in his mods, with speed being the secondary focus. Ideally, I run 3 to 4 protection primaries with a speed average of around 270. The extra protection gives you a solid safety net for whenever a death mark gets placed on him for a brief window. Avoid giving him any extra health or crit chance where possible. For L3, her modding is also the same as 3v3, going for 4 protection primaries and ideally 3 defense sets. I'm really enjoying giving her a bit of extra speed, nothing drastic, but try to get about an 8 speed average minimum. There are 2 new additions to the team, starting with the big one. Shoretrooper. This is the best I have ever seen a tank perform in a matchup, with Thrawn lead letting him run laps around the enemy team. Because of our extra tanks in 5v5, we don't have to worry about an early shock from Malak like we did in 3v3, and Shoretrooper sings at this matchup. He's our safety net that allows us to point and laugh while a Relic 7 Marauder throws a tantrum. Very similar modding to L3, 3 defense sets with 4 protection primaries, and a bit of extra speed sprinkled on. Last but not least, we also have Geonosian Brute Alpha. His Brute makes the perfect bait to keep Malak distracted from shocking Shoretrooper, while also bringing a nice AoE dispel to the table. We are doing a bit of a deal with the devil, since Brute Alpha feeds Marauder a lot of turn meter, but with Shoretrooper on standby to hand out crit immunity, this deal keeps getting better all the time. His unique Zeta is definitely required here, and a speed minimum of 260 felt pretty good to me. Brute Alpha only shares health and defense with Brute, but any extra health we give Brute is just going to give Malak more healing on his drain, so I've actually been enjoying giving him defense primaries instead. This has the added bonus of ensuring that Brute will almost always remain the target of Malak's ire. I did run some tests with some extra health on Brute Alpha, and it didn't seem to end up mattering too much, but if you don't have the defense primaries, it might be better to lean towards protection instead. With all of that out of the way, let's dive into gameplay. This is one of the more complex counters I've ever seen, mostly because there are a few parts in the counter where the game plan branches based on AI's RNG. The good news is that all RNG outcomes are equally winnable. The bad news is, we gotta think on our feet a bit. We just need to remember a few rules for the best possible outcome. The ordering on turns is also going to change based on RNG, so this is going to be a little bit convoluted. Stick with me here. Our first turn has 3 possible outcomes. Either our Thrawn goes first and Vader is feared, Thrawn goes first and Vader isn't feared, or Vader goes first. Our goal here is to get Vader to his first turn as soon as possible. If Vader is feared, have Thrawn use his lead ability to let Vader's fear wear off, then swap to him on Thrawn's next turn. If Thrawn goes first and Vader isn't feared, swap to him immediately. If Vader goes first, or once we've had Thrawn swap to him, we immediately go into Merciless Massacre. If we're fighting against Sith Empire Trooper, we need to check on the status of our Shoretrooper. If Shore is feared, then we're going to use Choke on Sith Empire Trooper. If Shore isn't feared, then we're using Choke on Malak. Your second turn will always be Cole on Darth Revan, and your next 3 turns will always be 3 basics against the remaining Merciless Massacre targets. Our final turn also depends on if Shore is feared. If he is, have Vader use Thrawn's lead ability to skip his turn. If he's not, take a basic on Sith Trooper. With Darth Revan dead, we enter a stage of the game where we're really just taking it slow and waiting for Vader to get to his next Merciless Massacre. On Thrawn's turns, check if he has Corrupted Battle Meditation. If he doesn't, and Malak can be targeted, go ahead and fracture him. If we can't get to Malak, or if Thrawn has Corrupted Battle Meditation, we've got a few choices here. If we've got Swap available, and we know Shore has his special available, he's usually the best swap target. If L3 or GBA are looking worse for wear, or if a character has a lot of turn meter, they can make fine swap targets as well, but keeping our crit immunity cycling really goes a long way towards staying stable. We don't need to swap to Vader until we know that his Merciless Massacre is up on his next turn. If swap isn't available, we default to using our lead ability, and if neither are available, take a basic instead. Depending on how the fight started, Brood Alpha might go before or after our Vader goes, but the decision making is still the same. Aim at Sith Empire Trooper and check Brood Alpha for Corrupted Battle Meditation. If he has it, use his AoE Dispel. If he doesn't, use his basic. For Brood's turns, always use basic. Shoretrooper and L3 always have the same thought process throughout the battle. Shoretrooper wants to use his special, and if it's not available, uses Thrawn's lead ability instead. If neither are available, take a basic on Sith Empire Trooper. Their counterattacks against Shore feed him extra turn meter, which is fantastic. For L3, you want to give priority to her special instead of her tech upgrade. We have infinite uses of her special, but limited uses of her tech, so the unlimited resource gets priority, saving tech upgrades for when it's not available. For Vader's turns while waiting for Merciless Massacre, we're mostly just using basic on Sith Empire Trooper. Once we get to second Merciless Massacre, choke on Malak, then take the Cole on Marauder, and basic on Bastila, killing both of them. From here, it's a simple matter of cleanup. Kill off Sith Empire Trooper, and then work on fracture looping Malak while keeping your tanks healthy with Thrawn swaps. Time a fracture around Vader's second Merciless Massacre, and the battle is won. Even if the Massacre Cole doesn't kill Malak, he'll be incredibly low on health for a nice and easy finish. If you want to try to take it to the next level, you can also line up an ability block with your last fracture so that Malak can't use Drain, either via Vader Basic or Thrawn Basic. Whew, alright, that covers the main beats. Most of the fight just boils down to reading the board and making the best choice at any given time, which is why I suggest getting some practice on this counter before running it in Grand Arena or Territory Wars. It's a counter I feel absolute confidence in, but it is still pretty intense in the moment. I'll leave in a few unedited battles so you can see the full process. Other than that, get on out there and happy hunting.